What's going on to all my Barry blockheads, Barry buddies out there, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Elliot back again, breaking down this third season, episode 3 of Barry, titled Ben Mendelsohn, an episode in which we see Barry and Jean telling the truth to one another. We see Sally trying to be authentic, and Fuches, he wants his vengeance. We're discussing that and so much more in today's spoiler review. But before we get into the discussion, make sure you all are checking me out on all my other social media accounts. If you're new to the channel and love early movie reviews, TV breakdowns, and live streams, well, come and join the community today by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. And as you all can see on the screen now, if you enjoy what I had to say about this third episode of season 3 of Barry, well, make sure you all are liking and sharing this review, but more importantly, sharing your thoughts on this third episode in the comments. Your thoughts on this fascinating character study that we're getting between the parallels of what's going on with Barry and Jean, Sally and Katie and their whole TV show, and how that all ties into Fuches and just this abusive relationships that these characters are going through. Let's discuss pros, cons, thoughts, theories, and everything in between in the comments below. So listen, we got a lot to break down. Full spoilers ahead. We open the episode with Jean getting his makeup done with Barry next to him in their trailer, and we hear, and I think it's not a coincidence that as the show has went on and we all look at Jean as such a nice guy, a guy that just kind of missed opportunities, but we're also learning more about his past in the last few seasons. Number one, Leo, he had a son, and also in this season, Jean was an a-hole when he was younger, which again speaks to the duality of these characters. They are always put it on their actors, right? They're always acting. They want to be the best versions of themselves, as Barry points out a little bit later. But we hear another story about Jean being an a-hole to a PA, throwing coffee in his face. I think some of that stuff might catch up to Jean in regards to his redemption story in this particular season, but it's in this moment that he is given lines in the series, and Barry's like, tell him thank you. Again, pushing that abusive narrative, like, be happy for what you got before I take it away from you. And we have so much to connect to in this episode, in this review, paralleling the abusive stories, and we'll get to that a little bit later. But switching over to Hank and his crew finding out that the left that was messed behind was a missed hit, and they are now blaming Cristobal, or I should say Batar is bringing Cristobal, and we're going to talk about him and NoHo Hank. I don't know if it's looking good for our guy, NoHo Hank, but at this point, we see that Hank wants to activate his patsy, which we transition over to Fuches, who's being called at this point, and we see that he's really liking this lifestyle. It's almost kind of biblical, like he's on this farm with goats, and, you know, God is the shepherd, all this stuff. Very kind of, and you hear the music too being kind of religious, like type of undertone in the scene there, but he's happy with his life for now, and he is going to take on vengeance a little bit later. But he has his, his nice little girlfriend now. He got his, his goats on this farm. He doesn't want any part of this life, but he's going to get wrapped right back into it in just a little bit. But let's transition and talk about the authenticity, or maybe lack of authenticity, that's going on with Sally in this episode. We see that she's prepping for an interview for her show, and we can see her insecurities are coming up. And what I like about, and this is what I love about Barry, the closer these characters are getting to what they've been chasing for their whole life, more so Sally and Jean, because they've been trying to be actors their whole life. And of course, Barry this is a hobby now that he really wants to be an actor. But just focusing on Jean and Sally, notice how the closer they're getting to that goal of becoming the famous person they've been wanting to be, this superstar, this megastar, the less they've become of themselves. They're losing themselves. And we're seeing this in the scene as she's being interviewed by all these people, which, by the way, the whole, who do you want to be the next Spider-Man? Ben Mendelsohn, which isn't too far off, Sally, because he was in Far From Home. So there are some connective tissues there. But yeah, he wouldn't be a good casting for Spider-Man. But more importantly, in this scene, like I said, just looking at her, realizing, man, that window of opportunity of telling my truth has become very small, and she's now putting on this front. She's now being someone she doesn't want to be, which just, again, speaks so interesting to me with this show. That was the goal, but what do you have to do to get that goal? You're losing who you want to be. So I find that to be so interesting, and at the same time, very funny. Again, the Ben Mendelsohn stuff was very funny. But let me know, again, just how you all are enjoying that narrative in regards to the chase to fame, the chase to being who you want to be, the best version of yourself, and how that's changing our characters right in front of our eyes. Let's discuss that in the comment section. Getting back into the episode, we see Jean is broken. Barry is running his lines with Jean, and this is where he asks Barry, did she suffer? And we see Barry, which, oh my goodness, Bill Hader, and just the chemistry between those two are so fantastic. With Bill Hader, No words. That was so smart of them to not put words in, because again, it's a truth he doesn't want to face. He's just like, no. He shakes his head. As they get more into the conversation, Barry tells him about Fuches being a family friend, as Gene realizes that the monologue that Barry read to him in season 1 all was true, and the night that he brought it up at the end of season 1 was what got Janice killed. And he's putting that pressure on himself. He's putting that blame on himself. And it's just, again, just pay attention to Barry in the scene and notice what he's doing. Again, he's no more human, because listen to these lines here as we transition over to Barry telling him that she was good at her job and it was just an unfortunate situation. Like, Barry, it's not like you hit the man's car. You killed his girlfriend in this moment. And getting back into it, Gene taught him to be the best version of himself, as Barry thanks him, and their relationship is beneficial to one another. Like, hey, you scratch my back, I scratch yours, I kill your girlfriend, and I give you a job. And we see Barry tell him, you're welcome. Man, Bill Hader is so fantastic in this role, and just playing off against, what we get in with Gene, their relationship and dynamic. I find it so interesting that one of the main plots in this season has been Sally and her show, which is basically a mother trying to get her daughter out of an abusive relationship. How the parallels between seeing Barry being that abuser and Gene being abusive and just trying to, you're welcome, take from what I've given you. It is just so interesting and so meta how they're playing into all that. And again, Barry, where's the human? Where are you, Barry? I mean, when we first met him, he was killing people for sleeping with people's wives. So was he ever human? That is the question. But I love that scene. Let me know your thoughts on all that. Getting back into the conversation, Cristobal tries to get Fernando to back off, which surprisingly, it actually works. Fernando believes Cristobal about cutting their losses short, and there's nothing here with the Chechens, but they want to have one more lunch before they leave. And it was just so interesting in this episode to see Cristobal trying to back off his, Bolivians, and seeing Hank trying to do it at the same time. But eventually, unfortunately, they're going to cross paths as we get into the next section of the moment here. Meanwhile, we see Hank breaking down once he hears that there's a homemade bomb right in front of him. He tells them that Fernando is behind it all and that Cristobal is simply a nobody. But we see that it doesn't work, unfortunately, for Hank. He's not able to persuade Batar and getting his, Chechens group to take out Fernando. He's like, I don't care. Drop off that bomb. And he's like, I know someone that might be crazy enough to do that. We know who that crazy individual is. As we get the call, I've got a job for you. Looking for someone crazy. We see Hank messages Barry that he's got a job. And right now we know Barry is at a much different position, where back in episode 1, he was desperate. He didn't have any purpose, but now he has this goal of getting Gene to be the star he wants to be. So he tells him, no, I don't want this. He gets a call thinking it's Hank, but nah, it's another person in your past, Barry. It is no other than Fuches, giving him a call as we see Fuches apologizes for ruining Barry's life. But in return, hey, Barry, you got something to say to me? Like maybe apologizing for shooting at me and trying to kill me? Again, notice the behavior. Notice how Fuches is just so self-centered and just wants the apology for himself, but doesn't realize all the stuff he's done to Barry. Oh boy, who is looking like Fuches? It's Barry. He is taking on, again, learning those patterns, not only from killing and the hiring and the hitman job, but also the personality traits, the narcissism personality traits that Fuches has. It is now transitioned over to Barry. And isn't it so interesting that the Fuches-Barry relationship, now you can parallel that to Barry and Gene? A lot of parallels, and I'm loving it. But getting back into the conversation, Fuches is, of course, lying about he's dying and he wants the sorries from Barry, but he's got nothing. Barry tells him that him and Gene are fine. They're working together. As we know that he's lying. Again, this is another thing that Barry's learned from Fuches. Lie. Just lie about things that aren't true. We know the relationship between him and Gene aren't going good, but Barry wants Fuches to believe that. As we get into the conversation again, as they get into a yelling match, which leads to Fuches throwing his phone away. And again, I just want you to realize how similar Fuches Barry to now Barry and Gene. It's all there. And again, the writing and the paralleling and the nature, the meta nature going on in this show right now is fantastic, which actually brings me into my next breakdown here, which Katie learns about Barry as Natalie tells Katie that Barry is harmless. We see him doing this type of behavior of yelling all the time. Katie, there's nothing to be afraid of. Barry's a cool guy. He's going to be okay. And with Sally's well-being, she's okay. This is just part of their relationship. And it's just so interesting. These are all the signs of like abusive behavior, by the way. I like this Katie's character so far because she's an outside perspective, right? She's someone that hasn't been there since season 1. She doesn't know that, yes, in season 1, Barry appeared to be a nice guy, seems to be a good boyfriend for Sally, minus him being a hitman, but all the signs are there that he's a good guy, and yes, he's went to war, PTSD, he has these outbursts sometimes, but at the core, he's a good guy. No, Katie doesn't see that. She sees what Barry's actually going through right now in his current situation, when he looks like an a-hole, he looks like a jerk, he looks like an abuser, and she's seeing those flaws in our character. And I like that we get that perspective from someone from the outside being implemented in the show. And it goes back to what I mentioned last week in regards to, I believe her character is gonna want to look out for Sally, and she's going to see something, and she's going to end up probably getting killed by Barry. It might not work out that way, but it's starting to look that way. Or she's going to have people pressed on Barry, get a PI or someone looking in on Barry. There's going to be more to that Katie to the Katie character as the weeks go on. But again, I just really like how we get that new set of eyes on the character in regards to her perception, her views, her point of view of Barry. I find that to be very interesting. And also, not to even leave out just the parallels of how the show that her and Sally are doing, Sally being the mom, her being the abuser, but that in reality, in the context of the show, Sally's the abuser and Katie's the one trying to get her. Well, she hasn't explicitly said, you need to get out of this relationship, but I can see Katie being the one saying, hey, all the stuff in the show, you're living that in real life. Like, you need to get out of this relationship. So I'm really, at first I thought that the Katie character might have just been kind of Elsie Fisher, a cameo, whatnot, but she's starting to be a little bit more pivotal to the plot, which I'm really enjoying. Let me know your thoughts on all that there. As we get back into the episode, I'm truly sorry. Love how the show is just so meta again, as Barry and Jean are working on the show, and we see in the show that they're working on, again, it's just meta on top of meta. The character that Barry is playing is responsible for the death of Jean's character's wife dying by giving them like unauthorized medicine. But again, thinking about in their real circumstance, Barry killed his girlfriend. Again, it's just like, this show's writing is just so great. I love that parallel there. But getting back into it, as Barry reads his lines, we see Jean breaks out of character, slaps Barry, and tells him to stay the F away from his family. He walks off set, and as he's doing so, like, he's feeling like, okay, yeah, I took charge. But like, oh man, the threat that Barry made to my family last week, he's running towards them to probably get them protection. So we'll see if Barry will keep that promise of hurting Leo and Leo's son. He's not human. He might make that call. Let me know your predictions on that. Getting back and wrapping it all up, I'm in as we see Barry calls back Hank and lets him know that he will take the job. Back to being lifeless, back to being cold, back to being the killer that he was when we opened this particular season. He wants that blood. He wants his vengeance. Which, speaking of vengeance, we go back to Batar, who's questioning the decision, and he's starting to see the cracks in Hank's story regarding bringing Barry back on. Also, the whole Cristobal thing going on, and we see him look at him, and that's not good for our boy NoHo Hank. Oh boy, what's going to happen? He's going to need Barry to not only take off the Fernando, but he's going to have to watch out for Batar. I'm loving how this stuff is shaping up, but let's wrap up the episode here as we see Fuches in his new romance, who questions his vengeance on Barry. She tells him a very interesting story about a man who killed a farmer and took their land, and it's a story about forgiveness that was offered to those lost souls, and most of the souls chose violence except for one, and the moral of the story, the souls that took vengeance end up going to a forsaken part, like a cold part, like cold-hearted darkness in the seas. And then the one soul that said that they forgave the farmer that killed them, they went to heaven. But, Fuchs doesn't get the moral of the story. He's like, tell me more about the vengeance side of it. And I love the framing of the shot when we see the red against his face. And, for film fans and TV fans, normally when you see red, it symbolizes danger, alert, coming soon, which means that vengeance is coming for Barry in the form of Fuchs. What a great way to end the episode. And just looking at all the different tables being turned now. Hank's in trouble. Jean and his family's in trouble based on Barry. But Barry, little does he know, he's in trouble because he got Fuchs coming his way. So every one of our characters has it coming their way. And even Sally, in a certain sense, not to the life or death situation, but for the fact that she's not living her most authentic life, and her truths are chasing her because she's starting to realize this fame is taking away who I want to be as an individual. Can I find a balance? Maybe not. And again, Katie, she's looking out for Barry too. So there's so much stuff being laid on the line. I'm loving the pacing. I'm loving the storytelling. I'm loving the character developments and also diving deeper into the psyche of these characters who want to be actors and want to play the best version of themselves, but their truths are starting to come up. So love this episode. I really can't wait to see what's coming next, but I want to know more importantly, what are your blockheads? What are your Barry Moores thinking out there? Let me know your pros, your cons, your thoughts, your theories, and everything in between in the comments below. Thank you all so much for watching this review, especially if you stuck around to this point. If you haven't already, make sure you like the review, share the review, leave your thoughts in the comments, and of course, come and join the Barry Moores, the happy Barry family, the Barry Berries, the Barry blockheads. Come and join this awesome community by subscribing and hitting that notification bell. Thank you again for watching the review. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you're staying safe. As you can see on the screen now, come and join the community. Check out my previous Barry reviews. Check out my coverage on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. We'll catch you all on the next breakdown.